So a basic problem with corporal punishment is that it models violent behavior. That, however, is just the beginning. Corporal punishment also boomerangs. It produces the opposite results. It makes children more difficult to manage, less well behaved in the long run, whatever its immediate effect, for a number of other things. For one thing, each time the parents hit a child, it chips away at the bond between the parent and child. And that bond of love and affection and admiration. Even when children recognize parents' right to do this, it still has that chipping away effect. And when you undermine the bond between the child and the parent, you also undermine the parent's ability to influence the child, for the child to want to do things just because that's what mom or dad wants, and because they're good people, okay, I want to do what these good people want. So there's lots of evidence that corporal punishment undermines that bond, which in turn makes the child more likely to misbehave both as a small child and especially later as an adolescent, when there's strong bonds to peer group and the child has to choose between doing what the peer group wants, which often is not what the parent wants, and what the parent wants. If that bond is weakened, then there's more likely to be influenced by peers. There's been close to 90 studies looking at possible harmful side effects of corporal punishment, and almost all of them show a harmful side effect. For example, the more corporal punishment a child experiences, the greater the probability that they will be depressed as an adult. Serious depression, not just occasional incidents. The more corporal punishment, the more likely they are when they get into conflicts and arguments with their husband or wife to hit the husband or wife. The more corporal punishment there is, the more likely they are to be delinquent as a teenager. The long-range consequences of corporal punishment are just not perceived, even by researchers, by psychologists and sociologists and child development people, and much less the general public. Corporal punishment is regarded as kind of, well, it may not be good, but it's not that serious. But it has tremendous and serious long-range consequences, starting with the mental development of the child. I think I mentioned before that a recent study of ours found that corporal punishment slows down. It actually puts a brake on the normal pace of mental development of children. So kids are less smart to the extent that they've experienced. It affects the neural connections in the brain, is the likely mechanism. This then shows up and showed up in earlier studies of ours in which we found that the more corporal punishment, the less likely a child was to graduate from college. This is holding all other things constant, holding socioeconomic status constant, holding whether it's a boy or a girl, all these things that affect the probability of graduating from college. After you take those into account, corporal punishment has an effect, and it reduces the probability of graduating from college. We're not sure of the mechanisms, but one of the probable reasons is that to be successful in college, there's no one standing over you saying, do your homework or you're going to get hit across the knuckles with a ruler. You've got to be motivated to do the homework, to be self-directing, self-controlling, and that isn't what corporal punishment teaches. So the probability of graduating from college is affected. That has many long-range implications. And then the probability of being in the top income category, the top fifth of income in the United States, is related. And that's after now among college graduates, among those who do graduate from college, even though they've experienced a lot of corporal punishment. Of course, there are many who do, most in fact. Among those college graduates who experience corporal punishment up through their early teens, to age 13 and 14, the probability of their achieving a high status occupation and high income is substantially reduced. So you can see that this affects right through the life cycle. This brings up the question of why income is reduced, even for college graduates. Well, just think what it takes to get ahead in the modern world, in the modern occupational structure. It takes someone who thinks for themselves. That isn't what's maximized by corporal punishment. It takes someone who can be a team player, who knows how to negotiate. That isn't what you learn with corporal punishment. You learn do it or else. And it's certainly getting ahead in the occupational world isn't helped by being aggressive. No one likes to work with someone who's angry, aggressive person, or being depressed. These are all other correlates of corporal punishment. So you can see the cumulative effect over a lifetime that shows up in many ways, one of which is a reduced probability of earning a high income.
So, one of the things that I've learned in my work is most of the kids who I have to deal with, kids with behavior problems, are kids who don't like themselves. They don't feel good about themselves. Why else to act the way they do? Why do they become discipline problems? They become discipline problems because they have to prove something to themselves or to other people. They don't feel comfortable with themselves. They don't feel like there is positive feelings for them in either the schools or in their homes, and so they act out the only way they know. Many of them have learned to act violently in the home. What I've learned is that when I see a parent coming in with a kid with a discipline problem, I see a kid in school with a discipline problem, the first thing I try to find out what's the history of the family. And when you have an obnoxious kid sitting in front of you trying his best to make you angry at him, you know that there's something happened in their family where he learned to act that way towards adults. And the chief thing that happens with almost all these kids is that they get severe or punitive types of discipline. It can be physically punitive or verbally punitive. They've dealt with physical assaults and verbal assaults all their lives, and they learn that this is the way to interact. You, the adult, are going to try to make me do something that I don't want to do, and no matter how much you punish me, I'm going to do it. And if you try to stop me, I'm going to continue to do it. Some of the early research I did showed that no spanking and some spanking was the same, but then later research showed that even a few spanks that are remembered seem to have some impact and have some correlation with lower self-esteem. Now, it's not a big deal in the terms it's going to destroy people, but it's there. And why have it? We have a society that's full of violence. And the fact is, why add more violence to children's lives when it's not necessary? And the reason it's not necessary is that we have loads and loads of evidence that you don't have to hit kids. There's more evidence emerging that spanking, especially when spanking is done a lot, it deters the child from thinking out problems, how to solve problems. It's a quick solution. It makes children angry. It causes post-traumatic stress disorder. It creates a second generation of abusers and a third generation. There's nothing good about it. There's absolutely nothing good about it. And there's no reason to do it, and we should stop it. But the research that we've done shows no matter how loving the family is, how they practice biblical discipline and spank the kids and so forth and all, that spanking definitely affects children's self-esteem, even at low levels, which even surprises me sometimes.